we are going to discuss about lambda expression in Python. So what is lambda expression? Now, lambda expression basically is sorry, is a small function which is identified by a keyword named lambda. So what happens is that, now what does this function do is that it basically returns the sum of the two arguments. But before we go more, it is a single expression which returns sum of the two arguments. For example, so it returns, as I said, it returns sum of the two arguments. So example is lambda a comma b will return, so lambda a comma b will return a plus b. Now, where is this function used? Where is lambda function used? Lambda basically is a small function which is identified by a keyword named lambda. So let me make it bold. What does it do? It returns sum of the two arguments. Any example? This is the example. But where is lambda function used? Any scenarios which we can talk about? Well, in an ideal scenario, as per how the definition looks like for a layman, if I happen to explain where is it used, it is used wherever the function objects are called. Wherever the function objects are called. What are function objects? Function objects are those variables which are the part of the function. Now, for example, define fib of n. Here, n is the object of function fib. Okay. That okay. So, where is lambda used? It is used anywhere. It is used anywhere. It is used wherever the function object is called. Wherever the function object is called or are required. Now, syntactically they are limited to single expression. Single expression means A is the single expression. B becomes the object of the function. Okay. Okay. So here A is the single function. B is basically nothing but the object of the function. Now let me explain it with the help of a program. So a program to explain use of lambda. As said, wherever the function object is called, it is used. So with respect to the definition and what we discussed, we create a function. Could be this. The object indent. Here return x. X is the singular function, comma x and x plus n, where is the object of the function. So let's see how does it behave. So def make underscore increment and return x plus n. Invalid syntax. Why is it? Yes, it is. But this is what we need to write. Now if I call, my function name is make underscore increment. Let me assign into this. What is f? It's a function. What is f of 0? 42. What is f of 1? 43. So whenever I am giving one value, so 2, 44. So 42 plus 2, 44. 5, 47. Now this is what a lambda expression does in Python and nothing else. Going forward, with this one more function which is known as documentation strings. Now what is documentation strings? So documentation strings are nothing but they are some conventions about the content and formatting of strings or documentation strings. Like first line should always be short and should be concise, having the summary of the object purpose. First line of the code, first line of the code should be short, concise, and the summary of objects. It should not explicitly state the object name or type because they are available by other means in the body. And the line should always begin with capital letter and end with a period. That is one convention. The second convention is if there are more lines, if there are n number of lines in the documentation string, then the second line should be blank, thus visually separating the summary which has been defined in the first line from rest of the description. So it is if there are more lines in documentation strings, then second line should be left blank in order to visually separate the summary from rest of the description. Third, third is the Python parser. It does not basically strip indentation from multi-line strings. There's literals in Python. So the tools which processes documentation have to strip indentation if desired. Now how it is done? It is done using the following convention. The first non-blank line after the first line of the string, it determines the amount of indentions for the entire documentation string. Now we cannot use the first line since it is generally adjacent to the string's opening code. So the indent is not apparent in the string literal. Okay. And the white space is equivalent to indentation, which is stripped from start of the line of the string. Now lines, so one thing which you need to keep in mind is lines which are indented less should not occur. Lines which are indented less should not occur. And if due to any reason, they happen to occur, then the white spaces, which is blank, should be stripped. Okay. Now, an example of such multi-line documentation string is example of multi-line documentation string is. So this is one, my function. Let's say there's one command. It's the first line, which is concise and summary. Then the second line is blank. The third line is another. Then the fourth line and fifth line is I'm passing. Okay, I'm passing. So what is happening in this? So let's see how documentation string is working with a period, blank, this, pass. Now if I happen to call my function, print my underscore function dot underscore dot underscore. So it will print the content, the main body, the remark of the function, the documentation part. So what happens is here is in this function I am calling the documentation string. Documentation string is called by this method, which is pre-built method which we discussed it yesterday. So it basically gives as an output, it gives what? It gives this as an output, do nothing. Whatever is the text or string part of the function. Annotation. So these are some things which you should know. They don't while writing a program. You would not basically be given a business scenario to use these things. Only thing is certain tips and tricks, certain points, certain things which you should know while writing a program or information about Python. The next part is function annotation. Now, what is function annotation? Function annotation, they are basically an optional metadata information about the types which is used by user defined functions. Okay, they are optional metadata information about the types which is used by user defined. Now all these function annotations are stored where? So these function annotations are stored in attribute of the function as a dictionary. The most important thing is it has no effect on any part of the function. Uh, Another thing to notice, parameter annotations are defined by a colon after the parameter followed by an expression which evaluates the value of annotation. Now, so one more thing is return annotation is defined by a literal, which is this. This is the one which defines it, which is followed by an expression. Now, example of such example of function annotation is this, which I'm going to write. Def function name str string str is equal to eggs. This assignment str in it. Then print the annotation. Print annotations comma f dot annotations and then the argument print arguments and comma x. Then a return function return ham plus and plus x. So this is how a functional is. Now how does it work? What is so I wrote a program with a functional annotations. I'm calling that annotation. But what will be the output if I define certain value to my function? Which would be the annotation part and which would be the argument part? How does it happen? So def f ham str comma x str is equal to x print. So I want annotations. So here I'm printing annotations. I'm calling that annotation method. Then I'm printing argument, which I want. Then I'm returning the argument plus now when I define a function with a name f and if I pass this, I'll get annotations string, right? I'll get my annotation ham, which is ham. What type of string it is? It's a class. So string here is class is string. Argument is spam eggs. Why? Because argument is ham and eggs. So return ham plus whatever and eggs. So spam and eggs becomes my function. So value is, in place of ham, it becomes spam. So they basically, through this function, through functional annotation, what are we knowing? We are seeing the metadata information about the types which I have used. Like what is the type of string? What is the metadata information of string? When I'm returning the value as an argument, what am I getting? What part of the statement forms as an argument? What is the output? There are a few more things which we should also know. And what are those? The Python connection to the database. Here database means structured database. So how can we connect Python to different RDBMS? First is Python to Oracle database. Now in order to connect to Oracle database from Python, there are few things which we need to know. First and foremost, the first is we have to download and install cx_oracle module. So an appropriate is the word which I would use, like to appropriate cx_oracle module with respect to the version of Python which is installed. Where from you can download it? So you can download it from this http://cx-oracle dot sourceforge.net. This is my Oracle RPM for MS Windows, whatever it is. CX_Oracle, but of different versions. One is 5.3, one is 5.2.1. Okay. Once your download and installation has happened, then we have to initiate a Python script. And in Python script, we need to import the cx_oracle module. How do we import it? So command to import is import cx_oracle. Third, how to make connection to Oracle database. So in order to make a connection to Oracle database, we have to pass appropriate user and password to the connection string. So the connection string, so we need to pass appropriate user and password to connection string. So how does it happen? So connection string, I create a variable connection. Then through this module dot connect method, I'll give my username, my password at the rate my database name. This is how we connect. Once the connection is happened, we define a cursor. Why do we define a cursor method? In order to define a parameter. So in order to define a parameter to access the tables, to access the cursor method table, we define a cursor. How do we define it? So another variable Once all my connections, import of the modules, and parameter definition has happened, then my fifth step, I will create a query which will be executed. Create a query similar to Python script which will be executed at the database level to perform certain actions as per the query defined. So which is we'll create a query string, which is called we'll create a query string. Which is query string is equal to select. So how do we do that? Select star from parcels. So once the query string has been created, it is passed on to the cursor method. Then query string is passed on to cursor method for execution. For execution. And the command is cursor dot execute slash query string. The way it is written, case sensitive, is what how we execute. First, we connect Python to Oracle database, and then we start executing scripts in Oracle. This was about how do we connect to Oracle.